Blue Mountains is full of historic and haunted buildings, but one in particular is the Hydro Majestic. It sits along the Great Western Highway and backs onto the cliffs overlooking the beautiful Blue Mountains. It's said to be reputedly haunted. You can stay there, or they have Devonshire teas that you can just visit for the day. It's quite a classy motel. But it was known for a lot of notable characters that stayed there over the years. It was built in the early 1900s, and the first Prime Minister, Edmund Barton, died while staying there and was found by staff dead in his bed, and it's said that he still roams the corridors at night. This time at the bottom of the Blue Mountains stands Junee Caves house, and Junee Caves. Junee Caves is full of mysterious caves full of stalagmites, underground rivers. It's also said to be haunted. As well, Caves house. Caves house is meant to be haunted by a woman who's seen walking down the staircase and often spotted by staff in the dining room. It was built in the early 1900s. Junee Caves is a beautiful, mysterious place, and Jason and I investigated this place before the pandemic, and we got many fascinating photographs. Up on the Central Coast at Norah Heads, there's a lighthouse and a beach and national park around the beach, and across the road there is a cemetery, and it's widely reputedly haunted. The beach is haunted. It's called Dixon Beach, and there's been several shipwrecks there, and there's been reports that they see a woman walking up and down the beach with her arms outstretched looking for help, dressed in 1800 type period costume. One of the shipwrecks was a Janet Dixon, so it could be related, we're not sure. On the highway, however, in the 1950s and 60s, there was a young lady that hitchhiked, and she was unfortunately raped and murdered, her body dumped in the scrub nearby. And the police have even put notifications out for anyone to not pick up a hitchhiker. Often people will pick her up. She'll sit in the back seat. She won't really talk much, but then when you look in the revision mirror, she's just gone. And often there's reports that they have picked up a hitchhiker like this, a young girl. Paranormal investigators we know have investigated the place and have even spotted a young lady in a white dress coming out of the bush area, walking towards the cemetery and disappearing. It's not known if either one of them is buried in the cemetery, but that beach area, the bush area, the road and the cemetery across are all widely haunted. Now this place is our favourite. Rookwood Cemetery in New South Wales is the biggest cemetery in the Southern Hemisphere. It is so big that it has its own postcode. It is over 200 hectares, dating back to the 1840s, and millions of burials, and it's still currently used today. So not surprisingly, it's haunted. Many people have had different experiences when visiting the cemetery, and a film crew years ago even captured a photo of an unusual lady in black watching them film, and that was taken to the media. There is a large indoor vault mausoleum. Now this indoor mausoleum in particular has even scared security guards away that work there at night, never to return. The caretaker has spoken to us and mentioned that when they go to check the doors at night to make sure that they're locked, in the glass doors they often see their reflection, but they also see the reflection of someone else standing behind them. So not surprisingly, they've left. Jason and I also investigated this mausoleum during the day, as it's locked at night, with surprising results. If you want to see the video, have a look in the comments below. Monte Christo in Junee in the Riverina district in New South Wales is a small country town, and Monte Christo is reputedly the most haunted house in Australia. It was originally built in 1888 by the Crawley family, and lots of tragedies happened over the years when they owned it, including a maid being thrown over by the balcony, a young disabled boy that was kept locked in the barn by a chain and he burnt to death. Many different tragedies happened there, but the Ryan family bought it over 30 years ago when it was run down and dilapidated, and they had so many hauntings happen there that they've been running ghost tours there for over 30 years. It's very haunted. Everybody that has visited the house has had some sort of experience, and even a TV crew that filmed there said the place smelt like death and they never wanted to return. They said it was the most haunted house they had ever been to. Jason investigated it once and has a very mysterious photo to show you, which is attached here. Now, this beautiful location is in North Queensland, and Babinda Boulders looks like a beautiful place to have a swim on a very hot day, but it's reputedly very haunted, and a lot of people have drowned there, so many in fact that there's now signs everywhere saying to swim at your own peril. And the Dreamtime legend is that a woman fell in love with another man from a different tribe, and she was already married to somebody in her own tribe. Then they went to escape to the valleys and were captured, and the woman named Alana jumped into the boulders to save herself and called for her lover to join her. And the rumour is, or the Dreamtime rumour is, that they believe she lures men to the pool, the devil's pool, to drown. She's also looking for her lost lover. And most of the people that have drowned there have been men. And one such case, one victim was known as Patrick McGann, and several hours before he swam at Babinda Boulders, his girlfriend took a picture of him with a cigarette in his mouth. And after he went missing, the police took a photograph of the notorious death spot using infrared film camera. What they captured surprised them. They called over Patrick's father and quietly showed him the picture. Patrick's face could clearly be seen in the water, even down to the cigarette in his mouth. A priest told his father, "There's a lot of things we'll never understand, and this is one of them." What's your thoughts on the photo? Now, this photo was taken out of a book about the paranormal by a very well-known person by the name of John Pickney that used to do a lot of reports on the mysterious around Australia. But so it's definitely not fake. But put your thoughts in the comments below about what you think. And have you visited this place? This is St John's Cemetery in Kapunda, South Australia. Kapunda is a small mining town known to be one of the most haunted towns in Australia. Where the palm tree sits behind the cemetery was once an old rectory, and it held a lot of troubled girls known for small minor criminal offences, and it was rumoured that they were abused, so it was torn down or closed in 1910. There was a couple of rumours that was found to be not true. There's a girl that's buried in the cemetery that was part of the reformatory. Her name was Ruby Bland. It was said that she was raped and pregnant by one of the priests, and he murdered her, who's also buried in the cemetery. But she actually died from complications due to gallstones in hospital. So that rumour's untrue, but it's said that there's seen to be the priest running around the cemetery. Also, people have heard crying babies. Investigators have said that they've had rocks thrown at them. or seen figures walking around, or just a horrible feeling that they're not welcome and to leave. We've investigated this cemetery a couple of years ago, and we got a very unusual picture which looks like a small child peeking behind one of the tombstones. Let us know what your thoughts are and if you visited this cemetery. The next thing we're going to talk about is a phenomenon known as the Min Min lights. Min Min lights are a mysterious phenomenon that has spooked many people in Australia, particularly in the outback. The lights have been described by witnesses as floating, fast-moving balls of colour that glow in the night sky and stalk people, leaving them feeling confused and frightened. Sometimes the lights are blue, other times they're white or yellow. And in one town in Queensland, the Bullius Shire Council notifies visitors in the interest of tourism that they're in the land of the Min Min lights and that they may spot them as they drive for the next 120 kilometres. In the Kimberley in Western Australia, some Aboriginal people believe the Min Min lights are the spirits of elders. Lots of people have had different experiences in the Min Min lights, and they've even been seen in the suburbs. Let us know if you've had an experience with any Min Min lights in Australia, and we'd be happy to hear what you've experienced in the comments below. One of the most well-known haunted places here in Sydney is the quarantine station in Manly, situated on the North Head, and the complex operated as a quarantine station from August 1832 to February 1984. The concept behind its establishment was that as an island nation, as it was then known, was susceptible to ship-borne diseases. So it had most of the people arriving from Australia staying in the quarantine centre to rid them of things like scarlet fever, bubonic plague, and other known diseases at the time, as well as cholera. It was well known at the time for abuse going on, and the beach on North Head is an unmarked cemetery for many that perished behind the walls of the Manly quarantine station. They run tours there 7 days a week, and it is widely known to be haunted. And I will get Jason to tell you an experience he had when he was at the quarantine centre investigating.
As I was investigating the wash shed, I was down the back in the corner, and as I walked around, I come to head with a black shadow over 6 foot tall. As I looked to my left, I saw one of my old teammates running. So I took a step back, went for my camera, and before I even had a chance to get the photo, the black shadow disappeared on me. As from now, I still don't know who that black shadow was, but I know one thing, I did see something in that wash shed. Here is a photo that I took at the quarantine station. As you can see, there's a few objects in the photo that I can't explain. So if you can comment and tell me what you see or what you think it is, it'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Now this beautiful spot has a really creepy name, Slaughter Falls. And there's a good reason why it's called Slaughter Falls. But it's a beautiful hiking trail within Queensland's Mount Cootha Forest area. And it was actually named after someone called J.C. Slaughter. But it's famous for its dark past history, with a reputation for being a place of murder, suicides, and lingering spirits. Many strange and terrifying events have happened at Slaughter Falls, bringing a question of why so many events have been drawn to this one spot. The first event of interest took place on Christmas Day 1925, where a woman was shot by a man hiding in the bushes along the trail. When caught and questioned, the man did not have any reasons for doing so. He had no relation to the woman, and when questioned as to why he committed this crime, the man stated he did not even know. He just felt something come over him. In 1926, Slaughter Falls was the site of a double suicide. 2 men entered the falls together to take their own lives, with the reasons why still a mystery to this day. In the following year, 1927, a murder-suicide was documented at the falls. This saw a man take his girlfriend out for a walk, only to shoot her in the forehead. He then took poison but survived the suicide attempt. But when he was questioned about this event, he stated he couldn't remember anything about what had happened, just felt as though some kind of dark cloud has taken over him. There are also speculation that satanic rituals were performed in the area, one reason why Slaughter Falls draws in so much negativity around it. Other rumours state that a young teenage girl was raped and then murdered in the area. It's also been said that her spirit haunts the place to this day, still searching for help. This place certainly sounds creepy, but if anyone's watched this, I wonder if you've been there or had any experience in a place like this. Let us know in the comments. Port Arthur is reputedly one of the most haunted places in Australia, and it was started off as a penal settlement, and as boys as young as 9 were kept as prisoners there. And it has a very tragic and sad history of a lot of the prisoners suffering hardships and even dying there. And it really is a sad, eerie place to look at. But the ghosts have been haunting the place for years. They do have ghost tours there 5 nights a week. And everybody that's been to Port Arthur has had some sort of supernatural experience. And I'll tell you about one of the experiences that was reported to the tour guides a few years ago. And it was 3 builders working in Port Arthur on the conservation and restoration of the buildings. During their stay, they occupied the parsonage, which is one of the houses in the ruins. And although they had heard stories it was haunted, they didn't believe in ghosts. That is, until a series of unexplained incidents occurred. One of the men returned to the building one evening, and upon entering his building, caught a glimpse of a woman. He could see right through her. Next to the curtains came flying off the wall, and there was a sudden drop in temperature. One of the other men woke up in the middle of the night, struggling to breathe as he's been strangled, and experienced a sensation of a heavy weight of his chest pinning him down. The builders also experienced unexplained banging noises coming from the roof area, from which they examined on numerous occasions, but to no avail. This is just one of many stories that has been reported at Port Arthur. People often see a woman in blue, they've heard kids laughing, they've seen different apparitions in many of the different buildings, voices, footsteps. The list goes on and on. If you've been to Port Arthur and had an experience there, we'd love to hear about it. Put it in the comments below. Picton is a town in southwestern Sydney, and it is rumoured to be the most haunted town in New South Wales. Picton, they say, runs on a ley line. That's one of the reasons why it's so haunted, but whatever the story is, there's always been plenty of ghosts there. One of the main areas that's haunted is the Picton Tunnel, and the tunnel runs 592 feet in length, carved into the hills of the Picton region. It was used between 1867 and 1919. It served as a corridor for train services to and from Melbourne, until a new line was built around the hills. A young lady of the name Emily Bollard was ran over by the train, unfortunately, in that time, and she's buried in one of the cemeteries in Picton. She is said to haunt the tunnel, and many people that have investigated the tunnel have gotten strange faces or a picture of a woman in the photo who they think may be Emily. Also, the cemeteries are haunted, and lots of people have gotten different photos in different cemeteries around Picton. And one of the photos, which I'll show you here, is someone took a photo and there was 2 children in there for no explanation when she was alone and no one else was at the cemetery. And Jason also investigated Picton one night and got a strange apparition in one of the photos, which looks like a lady in a bridal dress. Let me know what your thoughts of the photo is and leave it in the comments. Wisemans Ferry Inn is very haunted, and it was built in the early 1800s by convict labour ruled by a Solomon Wiseman, and he even murdered his first wife and threw her off the balcony on the top, and she's buried under the pub. And Solomon himself is buried in the local cemetery, and there's a weird story about his burial too. At first he was buried with his first wife, in the pub, and the pub was destroyed partially, and he was moved to a church in town. That church became destroyed as well due to vandalism, and so they moved him again, this time to the cemetery. But there was also rumours that his coffin kept rising up. So this time, when they buried him for the third time, they cemented him in. Now, Solomon wasn't a very nice person, and he was very cruel to the local Aboriginal children that he kept as slaves, as well as the convicts. And it's widely known that the pub is haunted. They even have a notice in the pub about the Wiseman's ghosts, and one is said to be of his first wife that he murdered, and the second one is a convict man who wanted to be free. He was promised pardon by Solomon for hard work, and realised that Solomon wasn't going to keep his word, and he wanted to leave to marry his sweetheart in the city. And he escaped, but he drowned in the river with his cast irons around his ankles. And he is said to haunt the pub also. We've investigated the pub with surprising results and amazing evidence, and if you'd like to see it yourself, please look at the link in the comments below and have a watch. Old Melbourne Jail operated for 80 years, but it hasn't seen a prisoner since 1920, and it hung many a prisoner in its gallows, and the most famous one being Nth Qld. Today it invites people to have a look around and see the cells, and they even have death masks that belong to some of the people that were hung. But they say it's very haunted. Staff still get terrorised by ghosts there, as well as people that visit the jail. In the grounds, there is a lot of prisoners buried there that were hung, and they say cell 17 is the main hotspot for hauntings. So cell 17 seems to be the supernatural centre of the jail, with many visitors reporting downright terrifying experiences inside the room. Reports that he's seen people running from the cell in tears, saying that they felt like someone was gripping their throat, unable to breathe. Others have reported feeling like they're being petted, scratched, or something tugging at their clothes, or even that the floor is rocking back and forth. There seems to be a gender divide as well, with women tending to report something was trying to prevent them from leaving, while men saying that something was pushing them out. One of the spookiest stories about cell 17, however, comes from someone who went looking for a ghost and perhaps got more than what they asked for. Following a night tour, a woman decided to go for a poke around cell 17. She was a firm believer in ghost stuff, and she really wanted to have this life-changing experience. The woman entered the cell and shut the door, waiting for something to happen. But after a while, nothing does, so she goes to leave. As soon as she has that instinct to leave and reaches out to open the door, she feels a tug at the back of her neck. She felt that yanking feeling. Looking down at the ground, the woman noticed the necklace she'd been wearing had fallen off. Not undone, but the chain actually snapped in half. She got out very quickly out of the cell after that. No one knows why cell 17 is so haunted. There are unusual physical features about the cell, with a wall, and it has a strange gunshot-like marks on the internal door. But the records of the 50,000 or so inmates that went through the jail in its time were partly destroyed in a mysterious fire. Old Melbourne Jail holds ghost tours, so if you'd like to have an experience yourself, I suggest book one. Or if you have had an experience at Old Melbourne Jail, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear it. This beautiful hotel is the Bushranger Hotel outside Canberra in Collector, New South Wales. The Bushranger Hotel is said to be haunted by a former pub owner who continues to go about his work. Glasses on the bar have been seen by unseen hands, moved, and even found to be stacked when a staff member leaves and re-enters the room. At other times, glasses just shatter while they sit on the shelves. White wispy figures have been seen travelling through doorways, accompanied by the step of heavy old gumboots. If you're a woman and staying at the hotel, you may be fortunate enough to have the sensation of your hair being stroked and run through with invisible fingers. The Bushranger Hotel in Collector has been investigated numerous times by paranormal investigators, and also by one Tim the Yowie man, who captured many orbs and strange photos at the pub. Our last haunted place of the evening is Kenwick Pioneer Cemetery in Western Australia. And over 200 people were buried in this cemetery. Only a few gravestones remain though, and the site was constructed by convicts in 1865. It initially held the accommodation, courthouse, church, post office and school grounds for 6 Kenwick school students and their teachers. But it's advised anyone frightened of ghosts to avoid this historic cemetery. Around midnight each night, on the flyover of the train line to Armidale, many have spotted a man riding a horse and holding his own head. The Headless Horseman of Kenwick is said to be an English soldier, but according to the City of Goshel's History Library, it may be just an urban legend. Lots of paranormal enthusiasts have gone to this cemetery at night and captured EVPs and amazing evidence through the spirit box. So whether it's an urban legend or not, there's definitely hauntings going on in that place. So I hope you enjoyed this little series of haunted places that you can visit, and let us know if you've seen any of them and share your paranormal story with us.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like, subscribe and share it with your friends, and make sure you put a comment guys. Thank you for watching.